we are now live on YouTube as well as Facebook. So give me a half a minute and I am going to grab a display so Kyle and I can get going here. And we're just going to minimize all of this. So, yeah, this is what I ran into the other night with when I was trying to stream live with Aurora on. So I'm just going to turn my display off. So you'll have me on audio, Kyle. Can you hear me at least?
Now I can hear you. You're the mysterious faceless DM.
I am the mysterious faceless DM. Well, one of the... hang on a second. I'm going to step over and close the door to the old man cave there. Hang on. All right, I'm back. One of the methods that Gary had tried as a DMing method was literally like sitting behind a couple of filing cabinets that were in the basement of the house there in Lake Geneva to literally be a mysterious voice from beyond describing what players were seeing and what was happening. He discarded that idea fairly quickly, but you know, this is one of the things I've got to... Go ahead.
Like DMing from a trench on in World War I or something.
This is one of the things I've got to have a talk with our budget people about, is getting a producer who can actually do these things. But anyway, welcome to everybody. Welcome to Wastrel Wednesdays. I don't know why it's not working as it should have. It was working last week. God only knows. I've got to get better brains in here than mine to figure out the intricacies of OBS and all that nonsense. But anyway, this is our lovely and talented antipode and co-host, Kyle Schuant. Kyle, say hello.
Hello. How you going, guys?
So, the discussion has come up time and again with Kyle and I over whether or not you can actually survive without Gary's edict that a successful character should have 2 15s in important stats in first edition advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Kyle maintains they can. I'm not prejudiced either way, because I've had players who didn't have them but really liked their character that they had created. So they kept that, and didn't go without the requisite 15s, and they did just fine. So I'm not prejudiced either way. I tend to lean towards gaming being a little bit more powerful, but I mean, for example, case in point, I offered to give Kyle magic items to start with using Appendix P, creating a party on the spur of the moment. And I was like, I rolled the dice. Magic leather armor +1. Just what the fashionable first edition, first level AD&D thief needs when going into the Caves of Chaos. He refused. So, when he is a smear of red bolognese across the dungeon floor, I just want everybody out there watching to know, I tried. I tried my level best. And he could have come up with whatever story come up with whatever story or justification for having it that he wanted. But to quote Strother Martin in Cool Hand Luke, this is the way he wants it. Well, he gets it. So, for those of you, both of you who might be living under a rock and not know, B2, the Keep on the Borderlands, is an introductory module that can be used with first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That was written by Gary Gygax. He took a brief break. I think he was writing the G series when he took a few weeks hiatus to write B2, and despite having been retconned into both Greyhawk and Mystara, it's not set in any place other than what is described as the space between the known world and the unknown Wilderlands. And its legendarm about what Gary really meant by that has grown over the years, and it was literally just like you can drop this in anywhere. He said, if you're going to put it in Greyhawk, put it on the Pomarge. That's between civilization and nasty wildness, and so on and etc. So, it is a sandbox module in the classic sense. It kind of set the tone for sandbox adventuring, in that players can establish themselves in the keep and then proceed to work the entire map, stumbling across encounters. If you're using it with AD&D, you can certainly have encounters in the hex it takes place in, because the B2 map is actually fairly small. It's 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, grid paper, and each square is 50 yards. So it actually occupies probably about less than one AD&D map hex. So tonight, Kyle is going to take Sir Adequate, the first level thief, into the caves. Oh, he's a first level fighter. You went with fighter.
Yeah, yeah. You can see I've shared the screen. So the image, for those who don't know, there's a pretty cool company called Hero Forge. You can design a miniature. You can make them male, female. You can give them, leather armor and a modern combat helmet if you want to. Whatever you like, and pose them however you like, and they will 3D print it, put it out here. It's not cheap. They can do it. I haven't done that. All I did was prepare the figure and then take a screenshot of him, geared him up. There's only so much gear you can show because of the scale of the figurines. They have to make the weapons oversized. Plus, people like the oversized weapons enemy style anyway. So yeah, he's got spear and shield and padded leather and leathered armor. As you guys can see, straight 10s for all his stats. This is the challenge. Just do it with just straight 10s. No bonuses, no penalties, just straight 10s. And exactly average hit points as well. He's an elf, so he has some good abilities. That's the only nod to power gaming not do. So he has resistance to sleep and charm, bonus to hit with longsword and bow, improvision. He can spot secret doors as he goes past. But the best thing I think is that when he's alone or 90 foot ahead of the rest of the party and not in metal armor, he's much more likely to surprise people. And he just has basic starting gear.
Well, he sounds like a redoubtable fellow, and it's going to be interesting to see him adventure. I thought about fiddling around with the PDF because of the fact that I'm basically my monitor that I use for live streaming is a little bit bigger than the monitor of your average laptop. So having a bunch of different windows and alt-tabbing back and forth is a non-starter. So I'm going to grab my physical copy of B2 Keep on the Borderlands from back in the day and use that as our starting point. Anyone who wants to follow along, please feel free.
As a note for the rest of you guys, in all my years of gaming, I actually haven't gone through B2. I've done, at some point or other, I've done the Temple of Elemental Stupidity. I've done the against the Giants and the Queen of the Demon Web pits and all that sort of stuff. And against the Slave Lords. We did that with Royal Master. Don't ask me. I actually haven't what's in the dungeons, or is there even are dungeons, or what?
So Kyle, in the in the interest of expediency, do we want to skip the introductory folderol and just plant you at the entrance to the dungeon, or put you in the keep, or how do you want to approach this? Player's choice.
Well, I'd like to make sure I have enough gear and all that. Can I get a drill?
A drill?
Such as a mason would use. Because see, I'm not a thief, so I can't pick locks except with an axe. But if I could drill into locks, that would help.
Okay. Let's see. Let's take a look at the contents of this great module right here, and you should know that I am using my copy that is autographed by Gary. So any critical rolls to smash you with, I will rub on his autograph to make sure that your demise comes all the swifter. Let's see. So having a gander at the good old keep here. Use the rumor table. Are drills available in the keep? We have. You know what? Yes, you can get you can get a basically an iron screw at the keep, a large iron screw, or auger, or call it what you will.
And how much does that cost me?
I'm going to say it's going to set you back 10 copper pieces.
Oh, okay.
Because he does, in fact, have some in stock. He doesn't have to make one. It would be more if he had to make one. Might cost you a whole silver if you had to do a custom order.
Okay, cool.
So you have an auger.
Are there minute arms available at the keep?
Well, let's see. Checking at the Wayfarer's Inn in the keep. Not to be confused with the Wayfarin Inn, which, let's see, just rat poison there. There's a 50% chance that 2 to 5 of the patrons will be of mercenary men-at-arms looking for work. It's your lucky day. There are 5 men-at-arms looking for work.
Excellent.
Late of the trade caravans that have brought supplies to the keep, they are now freed from their contract and are spoiling for a fight.
Excellent. I can give you gentlemen a fight. What are their fees?
Let's see. Well, they want wages for dangerous duty. They want all their gear purchased, room and board, and a silver piece per day. If no gear is purchased, they want a gold piece a day.
Okay. Well, I'll buy them a spear, a shield, and leather armor each. That's 7 gold each.
All right.
Starting with the basics. So 7 gold each. So we're down. It's 5 of them, isn't there? So down to 25.
All right. Well, I'm feeling awfully generous, so I will deem that we can use the player's handbook and not the module cost for such items. I mean, it does say to modify it for use with AD&D if you are using it with AD&D. So that is what we shall do. They quite like their new toys. Their basic morale is 50%. And do you wish to set out for the Caves of Chaos, or however you want to explore? Because it's not just the caves. There's a whole sprawling countryside, a thickly wooded forest to the north of the keep, some swamps to the south, just wherever you want to explore.
Caves of Chaos sound good.
All right.
Improve their morale. I give them 5 gold each as a signing bonus.
Well, that definitely that raises their loyalty considerably. Um,
In whatever mixture of coin and ale and all the rest,
sure.
seems appropriate at the time.
Nice, nice sharp bitter wedge of cheese each in their rucksacks, something like that. All right,
Oh, sorry, ale and sausages.
ale and
That's correct.
sausages. Yes. So
That's all handy.
they pack up their kit, having no further business in the keep since you are calling the shots, and they begin to march along the northeastern uh, thoroughfare that leads out into the distant wilderness. And a mere couple of hours later on the march, you find yourselves standing at the opening of a rather dismal looking ravine, the Caves of Chaos. You can see dotted.
About what time of day is it?
We're going to say that it is mid afternoon. We'll call it 2 o'clock.
Okay. Um, so three of the guys set up a camp here out of sight of, you know what I mean? So if someone's down in the ravine, they don't just look up and see us there with flags flying or something.
Right.
But you know what I mean? Look concealed from within the ravine. Set up a camp at an appropriate spot, and then I'll take the two of the guys down there, and we'll just have a very slow, cautious look around.
All right. So,
Basically, looking for any signs or spore or whatever of whatever may live within. You know, if there's giant dragon tracks,
right.
lots of common or something like that.
Well, you face your first deadly challenge in the form of one of the most unspeakable monsters in Dungeons and Dragons box text. Um, so you forced and hacked your way through thickets and woods to make yourself or to make your way yourselves to into the caves of chaos. The walls rise rather steeply to either side at a height of about 100 feet or so. Dark streak rock mingled with earth. Clumps of trees grow here and there, both on the floor of the ravine and up the sloping walls of the canyon. The opening you stand in is about 200 feet wide. The ravine runs at least 400 feet west to where the western end rises up into a steep slope. The sunlight is dim, the air dank. There is an oppressive feeling here, as if something evil is watching and waiting to pounce upon you. There are bare, dead trees here and there, and upon one a vulture perches and gazes hungrily at you. A flock of ravens rise creaking from the ground, the beat of their wings and their cries magnified by the terrain to sound loud and horrible. Amongst the litter of rubble, boulders, and dead wood scattered about on the ravine floor, you can see bits of gleaming ivory and white. Closer inspection reveals that these are the bones and skulls of men, animals, and other things. So, as you face the ravine, you can see that there are dark openings dotting the walls of them. To your right, perhaps. Let's see. Let's have a look at the big map. Yes. So to your right, perhaps 100 feet away, there is well, it's 100 feet to the right, and then about 200 feet along the floor, almost completely hidden by a stand of trees that clings to the slope. You can see a ground level cave that is on the north side of the ravine. The others,
Does it look, well traveled in and out?
um,
Do you have, even if you just got a patch of grass that people cross, it's sort of you end up with a dirt path?
not so much. No, actually, there is a nearer cave to the left, to the south, um, that does not have trees hanging over it. but it's also on the ground floor.
Yeah.
West of that, you see another large stand of trees. It's mostly on the floor of the ravine, and what appears to be an entrance under it. And to espy anything else, you'll have to go further into the ravine and push through the undergrowth if you want to inspect the ground level. But you've got three immediately available ground level entrances, two on your left and one on your right.
Right. Okay. So we pull back to the camp, and we help setting up the camp. But we'll always have two guys watching down into the ravine.
All right.
You can watch up the afternoon and maybe the evening as well, maybe through the night. Because I'm interested to see who comes and goes from this. Because whatever lives inside, they're either eating what's inside or they're eating something outside it. So let's see what comes in and out of it, if anything.
All right. So how long through the evening do you wish to keep your watch on the keep?
Oh, we keep watch all night because I mean we're in Indian country now, so you know we always have two guys on watch. But those two guys won't be right near the camp; they'll be watching down in the ravine mostly. You know, occasionally get up and walk around the camp, but mostly down in the ravine because that's where the nastiest things would come from. I expect.
Okay.
Always have two guys on watch. It's most important when I'm on watch because I have the information. So.
Well, the evening passes uneventfully. You do see some wild beasts moving about, but nothing that comes close enough to your camp out near the road to molest you. And your men at arms set up the camp much closer to the road than to the cave. They picked a spot that would allow them easy escape back to the road, so they could beat feet if they had to.
That's reasonable.
So yeah, nothing untoward comes snipping along.
Okay, do we hear any movement down in the ravine? Or see, lights of torches or anything like that?
Well, all right. Let's no torches, but let's see if adequate has keen hearing. See, that's a thing that gets missed often by dungeon masters and players both. You might actually possess keen hearing, which would give you almost thief-like abilities. So you don't hear anything except for the occasional hooting of an owl, the chirp of crickets, that sort of thing.
Okay. Alright, so in the morning we'll have breakfast. And if there are beasts moving about, there's something edible. So I'd like to go hunting for something reasonably sized. Like a deer or something like that. Not something huge like a rhino dinosaur or something, but something reasonably sized.
Sure, you're not looking to take down an elk to feed a small village with.
No.
All right.
But something more than just a rabbit or something.
Okay. There's a small wild boar nearby. Quick thrust of the spear from one of the men at arms brings it down. You've got a fair amount of meat now.
Good. Yeah, we're not going to eat it. We're going to hang it on a tree outside the entrance to one of those tunnels.
Okay.
Gonna dress the beast, take the guts out, all the rest, and hang the carcass outside.
All right.
As
What?
the man said in Fury Road, that's bait.
That's bait. So are you going to the northern, that is right-hand tunnel as you looked into the ravine, or to one of the southern left-hand tunnels?
Well, we'll go to the sort of
Okay.
work our way clockwise around. So start with the one on the bottom right of the ravine.
You mean the bottom left?
Oh, bottom left, yeah, clockwise, anti-clockwise, whatever. But
Yeah.
start on one side and work our way around.
Okay. Um. So this tunnel. Let me describe it for you and the other players. Oops. I really do need to get reading glasses. All right. All right. So standing nearby, this looks like a natural stone cave entrance. It doesn't look from the outside like it has been worked. Um, However, they're unlike in the other places that when you observe them from a distance. There's a fair amount of foot traffic on the ground here, going hither and yon. I mean, it's all confused. You're no ranger; you couldn't track it easily. But yeah, it's obvious that there's been a lot of traffic here.
Okay, so we'll go along with the guys and we'll hang up the pig at a height where somebody actually have to climb up to get it.
Okay.
We'll withdraw to a distance. I'll the men at arms go 90 foot back, and I'll sit in a bush or something, or up in a tree or something like that, somewhere where I can observe it and see who comes out. Now, I'm not going to bother them. I'm just going to see who, if anyone, comes out.
All right. Uh,
And tell the guys, if I call help, help, then come and rescue me. But otherwise, but my intention is, if somebody does spot me, then I'll just run off and we'll, rally at our camp.
all right. Um, some time passes. We're going to call it, say, 6 turns pass. You got to shift foot to foot and try and stop your legs from falling asleep in your crouch there. But eventually you see a group of 6. It's hard to tell what kind of humanoid there are. They're either some small breed of orc stooped over, or perhaps goblins or hobgoblin younglings. You don't really know from this distance 100% sure.
Elves speak, Orcish and Gnoll and all that sort of stuff. So presumably, we actually know what the guys look like.
Yeah. Well, they do have cloaks drawn over them. Orcs and goblins don't particularly care for sunlight, dim though it is here in the morning time in the base of the ravine.
If they're speaking to each other, can I hear what language it is?
Let's see. No, it's just kind of guttural. It's a little too echoey to make out any words. Um, but they very quickly they look around furtively, and then they haul down the pig carcass and scurry back in the entrance. There are 6.
Okay, cool. When they go back in, do any stay outside, or they all go back in, or?
One pauses briefly, scanning the area with his he's trying to shield his eyes with one of his hands. Clearly, he looks exactly in your direction. Kind of takes a couple of slow steps backwards, and then turns and bolts into the cave. Yeah, he locked eyes with you. You get the sneaking suspicion that he very well may have seen you.
That's right. Maybe we could be friends.
All right. So what next?
Okay, so I go back to the guys and
Okay.
So, and just repeating today, so, that I'll be there scouting and
Sure.
at a reasonable distance so that I can run off. Because I go faster than most humanoids do.
All right. Um, you're pretty sure the next night passes uneventfully. If anything saw you, it certainly didn't make any attacks, and you are now free to duck back into the caves of chaos with another pig. All right.
So I repeat the process of yesterday. And obviously, as I go past the first entrance, I'm sort of a bit cautious and look out to see if any of those guys are scouting out or whatever.
All right. So up to the next entrance you go. Um, so roll a d6 for me, Kyle, and tell me what result you got.
3.
3. Okay. Um, you, being an elf, are not surprised. However, you do immediately recognize the danger when out of that second cave, which is located under a spreading canopy of the aforementioned snarled and nasty trees, crashing through the underbrush with a rather large spear in its hand, is an ogre. And he lowers his spear at your chest. And do you speak ogrish?
No, but I speak like Orcish and Gnoll and Goblin and so on.
All right. He says to you in Broken Goblin, Ha ha! You leave pig for little runties. You bring me pig. I eat pig. I eat you. And rears back with his spear.
This pig is enough for you today, and we can bring you another one tomorrow. Lay it down before him, and I give him a little bow.
All right. Let's. You have provided food and you have parlayed. So let's see. How does he react to your parlay? He thrusts his spear butt first in ground and leans on it and grins at you with a graveyard of horrible teeth and and nasty looking gums, and leans forward and says, "Me listening."
We will bring you another pig tomorrow. We understand this is your land, this is your ravine. We respect that.
Ha! You afraid me eat you if you not bring pig.
Of course, but we still respect you. It is here for you to eat. If you eat me today, you cannot eat anything else tomorrow. But if you don't eat me, you can eat another pig tomorrow, and another pig after that.
All right, he picks the
You
carcass.
don't even have to hunt.
He picks the carcass up and puts it over his shoulder and takes a long sniff of it. Then he smiles, licks his lips, and then darts you a look and says, "This going to be good deal for you. If pig upset tummy, me kill you. Pig taste good, you live." And with that, he backs away until some distance is between you and ambles back into the cave. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when you parlay with a monster, you've bribed it with food, and the dungeon master rolls a 91.
Well, I hope he doesn't have to make a fresh roll every day.
Well, he is rather dim. He might well forget you tomorrow, so... So he tipped his hat and slowly rode away.
Alright, so now we know what's in the second cave.
A food critic.
The colour slowly returns to my face.
I mean,
Heart rate's going down.
Elves are pale. You were almost see-through for a minute there.
Alright. So I go back to the camp, and I think that's a well-deserved rest for the rest of the day.
All right.
But we'll endeavour to capture 2 pigs. Send the guys out for their afternoon, or some of the guys to go and get one, and then get another one tomorrow morning. Because we need to give one to the ogre, and we need to put one in front of another entrance.
All right.
We've got to pay our pig tax.
All right. So we'll make some checks here during the night. Nothing unspeakable comes to find you guys. And your men at arms. Your men at arms are successful. They find another boar and bring it down without any effort. There is some grumbling because you haven't done anything to win treasure, and the monsters in the caves are starting to eat better than your men at arms. Speaking of which, when you bought them equipment, did you buy them rations?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Standard rations.
All right.
Standard rations.
So they're chewing their salt pork and their hard.
Standard rations, not the iron rations. These guys get fresh food.
Okay. They're chewing their roasted pork then.
There's 5 of them, so if a couple of them want to catch other wild animals, that's fine too. They're not prohibited from.
All right. I'm just going to check the stream here. Thank you for everyone over on YouTube who's watching right now. We appreciate your patronage, of course. A little quiet on the Facebook front, but that's cool too. All right, so moving on. The next day comes a sallow, gray, overcast sky. You got your pig. So you're hauling one to the ogre's den, correct?
Yeah, but first I take one to the ogre's den, because I'm not going to take both, because then he'll demand both. And it'll be, it'll just get a bit ridiculous. You want 20 pigs a day or something. So, first I haul one to him so that he'll take it inside and eat it, and while he's busy doing that, we'll be able to go to the third one.
All right.
So I go and I don't call him or anything like that, but I just go to the tree near his entrance and start hanging it up, and then if he comes out, then I'll talk to him.
All right. Well, he apparently heard you, and he ambles out, looking as nasty as ever, and sniffs the air and says, "Ah, you bring pig. Hey, maybe next time you bring human or halfling or gnome."
Well, we will do our best, sir, but there are many pigs around. Presented to him a bow.
All right. He takes a bite out of it like a sub, and ambles back to his cave, and just through a full mouth in Goblinish says, "Yeah, maybe you think bring human or gnome next time." Nom 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 nom.
Okay, and then we go to the third cave.
All right, the third cave. The third cave. So, how's that?
I feel like an Uber delivery guy.
So, This area, there's a lot less traffic on the cave floor, and you are deep in a copse of trees to get to this opening. You didn't even know it was here until you fairly stumbled on it. There is a foul, foul odor coming out of this cavern.
Yeah, okay, I'm not going to mess with that. I'll go to the next one.
Okay.
We elves are sensitive creatures.
Keen indeed are the noses of the elves. All right. So you are almost parallel, but all the way across on the other side of the ogre's den when you approach this next cave. Aha. When leaping out of the trees that overhang the cave are 5 yipping kobolds, weapons drawn. Roll initiative.
Okay. What about my surprise? Being an elf on my own.
You get the feeling they've been waiting for you. You are not surprised. You are not surprised, which is why we're rolling initiative.
I rolled 5.
Okay, so they hit the floor of the ravine and are taking a moment to stand up and draw their short swords and move into contact with you. What do you wish to do? Basically, you have initiative.
I lay down the pig before them, and I say to them, I hope they speak Orcish. I say to them in Orcish, this is for you, gentlemen.
All right.
Oh, hang on, Orcish probably did that.
All right. Their weapons are still drawn. They're still growling. I mean, they're kobolds. They're like 22 inches tall. You know, it's if it wasn't for the fact that they were armed with crude but entirely able steel weapons, it would be almost comical as they form a semicircle and move in on you. One of them yips back at you in what you presume is kobold, and kind of makes a feint towards you with his drawn sword. Do you react in any way? Okay. They continue to move forward. A couple of them lean over the pig and sniff it. One of them yips something at one of the others, and it growls some command, and then you're treated to kind of the comical sight of a kobold trying to drag a dead boar backwards. If you've ever seen like a 3-year-old with a mastiff on a leash, it's a bit like that. But the others.
I've got halfling, sorry, no, I won't call it halfling. I'll try goblin, hobgoblin, orcish, and gnoll.
Okay.
And just say to them, I can carry it in for you.
The one who's apparently giving the orders here growls back at you. No! Stay away!
Which language did he respond to?
In Goblin.
Okay.
Put down weapons!
I just take a step back. I don't have weapons in my hands. My shield slung. I have my sword in its scabbard. I don't have weapons in my hand.
He's pointing at the ground with his sword and says to you again, put down weapons!
So, I'm not going to do that. I'm not your prisoner. I am just bringing you an offering out of respect because I am in your lands.
He barks something to the others, and a couple of them hesitantly begin to move they're getting close enough that in the next segment they're going to be able to touch you, and they have their
I continue backing off. Continue backing off. And I'm sure I move more quickly than
okay. Yeah, when you take that first step to back up, it's the classic cinematic scene. Mexican standoff. You move your foot, a twig snaps, and then just everybody kind of jumps. So they are at the very least looking to try and disarm you, and you're just trying to flee, correct? All right. So there's 4 kobolds. Let's roll initiative.
5.
It is a tie. So, as at least a couple are still operating on whatever orders to disarm you they got, they're going to lunge forward and clutch at your sword. That's a miss. One of them kind of gets... Huh?
We're using the unarmed combat rules.
No, we are not. 4 hours later.
Kick them across the room.
So the a couple of kobolds dive at your belt there. They're trying to grab your sword out of its scabbard, and the others are rushing forward with short sword drawn. And you're just backing away, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to run off to the men at arms.
Okay. So the other 2. All right. One of them might have gotten a piece of you. What is your shieldless AC?
8.
8.
As I look around and I call out and I say, "Oh, don't!"
All right. So I will deem that it will take a round for the men at arms to rush in. They weren't that far off. They knew you might be in danger, and you're their meal ticket. One of them did get a piece of you, and he does inflict. Short sword is 3 points of damage. That hurts. That hurts quite a bit. The gush of hot blood running down your back. But you now get your full movement towards where the men at arms are, and you can see their bright weapons and their brown mail as they're rushing forward, with their heart lifting battle cry, "For the boss! In the name of the paycheck! Glory be to payday!" And they are basically, in the next round, you will be in amongst them, so you won't be the sole focus of the kobolds' attacks. The kobolds, meanwhile, their morale is actually pretty good, even though you've got reinforcements coming in. Is this all of your men-at-arms, or just a couple with a couple? It's all of them. Okay. All right. So you have your full retinue of 5 men-at-arms and yourself, and there are 4 kobolds fighting you. Let's go ahead and roll initiative then. It is tied. They have short swords. Though, so they will be striking first. We'll just go across the line. We'll start. We'll go Jethro, Tom, you, and Larry.
I don't want to know their names until I survive the first combat encounter.
I'm sorry. 1, 2, you, and 3. How about that?
Alright. So the first one, 18.
Oh wait, are your men armed with short sword also?
No, they're armed with spears.
Okay.
I did them on the cheap, man. The cheapest outfitting. Wooden shield, spear, and leather. That's 7 gold each.
All right. So, what was your first roll?
18.
18. That will hit.
Okay, and he does 1d6 damage. 2 points of damage.
All right. He gives the kobold a good gig, but the kobold ducks under and is moving in. Next one.
Okay, 12.
Let's see. Man 0 versus 12. Rolls a 12, rather. That will actually just miss.
3, 17.
That is not going to miss. That will hit.
6 points of damage.
He spits one. That one is down and not moving.
11 will miss. Number 5, 20. Woohoo!
All right.
3 points of damage.
All right. That one is still up. So there's 3 kobolds. Oh, go ahead.
Yep, and then me. No.
I picture you heroically drawing your sword, and it just goes flying across the ravine as you whip it forth from its scabbard.
I'm just disturbed at being wounded for the first time.
All right, so that's 1 hit, 2 hit. These guys are on fire. And no, that's not a hint, Kyle. All right. So with their nasty little swords, we're gonna say Man-at-Arms number 1 takes a point. Man-at-Arms number 2. Ooh, that's not good. He takes 4 points. Man-at-Arms number 3 takes 2 points. So, start of the new round. The kobolds are in full. They're definitely wanting to.
Haven't 2 of them gone down?
No, only one of them has.
Okay.
So there are still 3 of them left. All right. What do you intend to do in the next round?
Okay. Subdual damage less. We want to take a prisoner and question them.
Okay. All right. Let's roll initiative.
2.
All right. The kobolds like see their friend get spitted and all the blood and everything like that, and they drop their weapons. You know, you basically got them out in full sunlight now, and they throw down their weapons. They're shielding their eyes. They're yipping and whining and calling out the goblin word for friend over and over like that. So, yeah, exactly. One of your men at arms is beating on one with the butt of his spear anyway.
Subdual. Keep subdual. Make them completely subdued, just in case they decide to pick up their weapons.
Okay.
We want them to be our little bitches.
All right. So, do you? Basically, these guys have surrendered. So I'm going to treat this as held or sleeping. So your blows are automatically hitting and doing 2 times normal damage. Even with subdual, you might kill them.
Well, if one or two die, it doesn't matter. They've got
All right.
Give an example to the others. It'll help the others be subdued.
Yeah. Well, two of the remaining 3, they get subdued so hard that they are either dead or very sleepy. In the words of Fezzik, I must have jogged his memory too hard. As is the case with a couple of them. One of them is robust enough that he is merely clubbed insensate by the spear butt from the man-at-arms. And he is now just flattened out on the ravine floor.
Okay. All right. So we tie them up, drag them off, and we also send someone back to get the pig, since obviously the kobolds don't need it.
Well, if you recall, one of them did drag the pig away. That's why you were being attacked by 4, not 5.
Ah, right.
Yeah. So you have one live one, two dead ones. Well, one live one, three dead ones, and one has gone back into the caves. So you have a kobold prisoner.
Okay. I wonder if ogres like to eat kobolds.
That's not even a question elves should ponder. Ogres like to eat anything.
Okay.
If they get hungry enough, you have observed ogres eat rocks. So,
Okay. Well, I'll set the bodies aside somewhere so that I can take them to the ogre the next day. Saves us. Then we can eat the pigs instead.
okay.
The kobolds are just small. I might have to eat them too. Oh. Anyway, I just set them aside under a bush somewhere. Okay. Yeah. So we take the living one back to the camp and we have a chat with him.
All right. An hour or so passes, and he shakes his head and looks around, and then you know how it is if you've ever accidentally stepped on a dog's tail, that yelp they make, that's the sound he makes when he wakes up and looks around and soils himself in fear and just begins to shiver.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. I give him something to untie him and I give him something to eat. And I say, we just want to know about the ravines. And we will bring you food, but you foolishly attacked us. You started this fight. It's very foolish of you. We just want to befriend you. We want to know about the ravine. We want to know who inhabits it.
All right. So speaking back to you in Broken Goblin, he says, "What you want? What you want to know?"
Okay, well, in the dirt, I draw a little kind of map of the ravine, and where I think the entrances are, and ask him if that's all the entrances and who lives in which.
All right. He indicates that now kobolds have a very, very, very limited dialect in their language. A thing is either a smaller kobold or a bigger kobold. Um, uh, he I'm going to make a roll here because this guy is pretty damn dumb. He actually does apprehend what you've drawn as a representation of the ravine, and he points to the first spot and says, "Green kobolds live here," and that he's pointing to where the goblins were, and points to the ogre's cave and says, "Big kobold live here." He points down at the foul-smelling cave on the bottom of the, or kind of at the apex of the ravine, on the floor, and says, "Very scary. No, go in there. Big."
I feel the same way.
And then he points at the one where you just encounter and said, "This kobold home." And
So it's just four.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. The foul-smelling cave at the westernmost end of the ravine, the cave where you just
Goblins, an ogre, foul smelling, we don't know what's in it, and the kobolds.
correct.
So there definitely no any other entrances that I've seen.
There are entrances that are further up the ravine walls. They're out of the the bushes and so on. Most of them he just points at and says bigger kobolds. He points at the far end of the ravine and indicates on your map also. He's a very helpful guy. I I just have a very simple die rolling system as to what information he'll offer, and he happens to be hitting the exact target number every time. So lucky you. He says, "Men go there, not kobold. Big men, bright skin. Good men, good." And he's fawning on you. "Men, good." And he wraps his legs around your thigh. "It would be adorable if it wasn't for the fact that these things regularly, raid farmsteads and murder everyone in them, just by sheer weight of numbers." But yeah, he indicates, place of men, place of terrible monster.
Okay. So tell us about your home, Cobalt. And I draw maps with him going, no, then it's left, then it's right, whatever. Try to draw out a map of the Cobalt part.
Okay. Let me ask you a meta question, Kyle. Have you started trying to explain algebra to Zach yet?
No.
If you went and got a math textbook right now and tried to explain algebra to Zach, do you think he would be able to apprehend it? That's this.
It would be a bit painful, but
That's what this is like.
if I asked him to draw a layout of the house, it wouldn't be to scale, but you'd know where the bathroom is next to the bedroom, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Well, the kobold, those might be the same places.
Yeah, exactly. But Zach would know if he had a chamber pot in his room and he grabbed in that. He would
Right.
know that. He definitely knows where the kitchen is.
Well,
He knows where the fridge and the pantry is. That's for sure.
this is going to take long enough. I mean, the abstract concept of draw a picture on the ground and
Well, even if he just verbally describes it, you go
sure.
in there and then the first thing that's in there is a scything blade trap or something. Make sure that you always step over that wire.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, it's
No, I completely understand, but it is still an Abbott and Costello routine trying to get this guy to understand the concept.
we've got all day.
Well, it takes you most of the day. So you're like, all right, I'm going in a cave. No, don't go. No. I'm saying if I go into a cave like that. So yeah, his dim little head and abstract concepts like that. Well, kobolds are actually clever miners, so it's not quite that bad. So yeah, it does take some doing, and he kind of indicates, it's like, you know, Big Daddy Chief Kobold sleep here. We keep wine and cheese here. Shiny things here. Kind of gives you an idea ish of where things are. Basically, it's as you go in the cave, it would be storage stuff to your left and living quarters to your right, and a separate area for the living quarters of the Kobold Chief and his mates, as in female Kobold partners, not his pals.
Yeah. So how many are there?
It takes him a while to suss it out. like it basically comes down to one of the men at arms coming over and holding out sticks and saying, "If kobolds are sticks, how many sticks?" He just looks at you and says conspiratorially, "Him hit on head, kobolds not sticks. Kobolds.
We take all day and we get the concepts across.
All right, you get the concept. There's approximately. Now you got to make me look at the module. I love this module, but it's been a long time since I have. Let's see. You get the feeling that there's perhaps 40 some kobolds maybe in there. He's little baby kobolds, girl kobolds, big chief kobolds, guard kobolds.
including the babies and the women?
I'm sorry, what?
Is that 40 including the babies and the bitches?
Yes, the bitches and the whelps. That
Okay, so at most half of them would be fighters, fighting types.
not an unreasonable estimation.
Okay, okay, cool. All right. Well, we tie them back up again at night, and we set watches as normal, and I always have a decent sleep. Can me and the other wounded guy heal up a hit point overnight?
No, you are out of doors on rough ground.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, from 3 to 4 hit points wouldn't make much difference to my survivability anyway.
Granted. Just think if you'd had +1 leather armor, that blow might not have landed.
This is kind of why I contend that 15s or whatever doesn't make a huge difference because when you're rolling a d20, one or two here or there, it's just not that big a deal unless you're in stacks and stacks of combats. And if you're in stacks and stacks of combats, you're doing it wrong because as the good book says, avoid unnecessary encounters.
Avoid unnecessary encounters. Now, I think this is a good place to take a commercial break and point out some of your tactics to players. I mean, now, first of all, I'm not pulling punches on Kyle. This isn't like we sat down and had some discussion about, okay, I won't kill your character so you can show, this thing could have ended very comically, literally in the first encounter, and we'd now be talking about that. We'd have to come up with some other content for the stream. With that said, Kyle is using really good tactics. He's bribing them with food. He's showing deference. It's just the dice were right for me this time in very poor reaction rolls for the kobolds when they jumped on this interloping elf carrying a lot of food. They were really good for the kobolds when the kobolds were making their melee attacks. They were really good for the men at arms when they slew the balance of the kobolds, and then sadly I didn't roll like a 99 for their morale, and they just go into berserker rage and impale themselves on your spear wall or anything, but so all of this is completely valid. And if you're out there watching, please, I rarely do I like plead for people to make a comment, but if you guys want to see us like continue this, like next week, or like next week we do just a general BS topic and then come back to this, please put a comment on YouTube or on Facebook. Let us know, even if it's after, even if it's not during the live stream. Say, yeah, I want to watch you guys play like solo, like Kyle, essentially Iron Man B2, and continue and show off his tactics. So but we'll go for a little bit longer if you're okay with that, Kyle, or just it's up to you. So yeah, no, this is good tactics in play right here. He didn't say, I go to cave 1, I draw my sword, I lead the men in a phalanx charge, and we just start massacring kobolds, which you could have, and the dice may have worked in your favor, that you wouldn't have had any issues at all. You could have just mowed through the entire lot of them, or again, it could have been death 3 seconds in, and we're off talking about something else.
That's the next step will probably be a bit more lengthy because it'll be more fighting. So we might leave that till next time, I think. Because if we have to churn through, 20 kobolds or something, that might take us a while.
Yeah, and I do want to solve. Go ahead.
If we're successful, it's still a lot of dice rolls. It's at least 20 rolls, even if we hit every time.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, 40 rolls, because you roll the hit, roll for damage.
Yeah.
So that might take a little while. But so I think it might be best to leave it there so as not to bore the guys too much.
Sure.
My general thing is like, there's no guarantees. Combat, parley, whatever, there's no guarantees. But my reasoning is, you try scale if we were really patient to do that, but I'm not sure my men at arms would put up with that. If I had a whole adventuring party with me, players are much more patient. Players are willing to have their character walk 300 miles across the wilderness just eating iron rations.
Yeah. Unless you happen to have a paladin of her or cleric of Heronias with you. We're going to ally ourselves with the ogre. Oh no, we're not.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you've got to have the right alignment and all the rest. I'm neutral. The holy gesture of my religion is
eh.
yeah. So there's all sorts of considerations, but the basic thing is, you take your time, you scout things out, you see what you're getting into, because it never does harm to have more information about what you're getting into. And then when you are getting into it, you try parley because you don't know what kind of an opponent you're dealing with always. It might just be 5 kobolds with regular adventuring party. Yeah, whatever. Sweep through them like a hot knife through butter.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out there's 500 kobolds behind them.
Yeah.
The 500 kobolds are led by an ogre or something. Who the hell knows? You just don't know. So you scout out first and you try talking to them because you're dealing mostly with evil creatures. You're not beholden to them. I mean, we can be friends with the ogre today, so that he's so slack he just comes out for his delivery, and then we ambush the bastard and chuck him. We all carry darts and we throw 3 darts per round, and that's 6 of us, so there's 18 darts coming at him. Some of them will hit.
That's assuming you don't gain total surprise on him, because if you gain total surprise on him, that's 72 darts. In the balance, you guys are gonna inflict 110 points of damage. That ogre's gonna disappear in a red mist.
Exactly. So that'd be possible of cost us 10 pigs or something. So there's no rule that okay, I'm parley now. I can never fight him again. You can if you want. You can make him just friendly enough. It's like the Godfather said, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And or as was said in Yes, Prime Minister, before you can stab someone in the back, you have to get behind him.
Yes. So.
It's always worth giving it a go. Take your time. Now, we could, next time we do this, we could walk into the dungeon and a bunch of bad dice rolls, we get killed in the first round, particularly with just 3 hit points on me at the moment. So there's never any guarantees. All you can try to do is kind of put the thumb on your scales in your own favor.
Yep. Because I, as a dungeon master, sure as hell am putting the thumb on the scale in my favor. So,
Exactly.
so from a technical standpoint, just for our listening to me and viewing you audience, between now and next week, because tomorrow kicks off GaryCon, I will not be live streaming anymore this week. I will be DMing GaryCon events until Sunday night. And then Monday I'll foolishly come in and actually do a live stream. But the next session Kyle and I do, I want to have the Dwarven Forge set up. Just as kind of a visual thing, even if Kyle doesn't want to watch it, something for you guys to see. And obviously I'm going to try and solve this issue with 2 cameras, Discord, and beaming out to 2 separate streaming services. But assuming everything goes to plan, I'll have a very nice setup with a new tactical boom arm that I can position way down and give you guys like a dungeon eye view of stuff. It'll be fun. It'll be fun from a technical standpoint. So,
I've upgraded. I've got my little Logitech webcam rather than just the one on the laptop.
yeah, it looks super. I hope you guys have noticed that.
Hopefully you guys get some better vision out of this, a clearer view of my ugly old self.
You know what you got to do is just go to the fabric store and get yourself like 10 yards of green cloth and use the Logitech green screen app and put like a space like battle scenes from what is the show right now? Oh, I was telling you not to spoil it for me. The Expanse. Just have like an Expanse battle scene going on behind you on a loop or something on the stream. Make it look like you're hanging out in a space station or something. But but no, your picture is crystal clear. You've got the same kind of webcam that I do. Um, and it's as good as you look. It makes me just like furious. I could never get mine dialed in to look that good. And you just took yours out of the box and plugged it in, right?
Yeah, and then for a moment it said installing, and that was it. I mean, I didn't even look at the instructions because that's the
Yeah.
instructions. It's blank on the other side. I got the character sheet on the other side.
There you. That's like two Traveler character sheets or one and a half OD&D character sheets.
Well, I mean, it's only it's a AD&D character sheet. It could be because I mean, he's a fighter. You know, if he's a magic user, you got to list 4 spells or whatever. And if he's a thief, you got to list the skills. But as a fighter, you just have to list.
Yeah, there you go. It's a AD&D character sheet. Um, and if it's for Twilight 2000, you can write your stats on that one before you grab the calculator worksheet.
Yep.
But
So
anyway,
unless there's a screaming demand to watch me play more D&D, what I'd like to do next week is do the same thing, but you're the player for conflict.
yes, I want to play some Conflict. And for those of you who maybe missed all the previous streams, and I certainly hope you didn't, but if you did, Kyle has written a very tight and really awesome man to man combat role playing game called Conflict. It's set. Well, I mean, setting wise, it can be set in pretty much any time from like 1960 to now. Um, but yeah, it's a very, like I said, it's a very tight little set of rules, and I don't mean tight as in the rules are like you know really complex and interlocked and that. I mean tight like that's tight, man. That's tight. Like as in they're a good set of rules. So next week, unless there's a stampede of people that want to watch us play AD&D, next week's session we will be playing Conflict. Also, something, speaking of the show progression, and this is just for my side, that I used to I used to designate a day of the week streaming for painting, and I'll get more into like weekly programming plans for the show. Thursdays are going to go back to being painting only days, so I'll be doing painting. If you want to watch me paint minis, you'll be able to hop in the stream for that. And hopefully between now and next week, regardless, I'll have this video issue resolved where I can be seen and heard, etc., etc., etc. So, I had a lot of fun tonight, though, DMing. It was B2. That's a great module. So, what do you think of B2, Kyle?
Seems alright so far. Normally I would have spent a bit of time at the keep getting to know who was there and seeing if we could drag anyone on adventures to help us, and seeing if there were rumours. That's the classic thing. You've got to go to the tavern and see if there's any rumours. What's
Well,
going on?
next time we do some B2,
Repeat or whatever it knows what's there. Because that's the other way to scout. You just ask the locals.
yep, start buying drinks, man.
Yeah, because it's probably hard to have 300 orcs or whatever living in a ravine nearby, and nobody knows they're there.
Yeah,
At some point they're going to figure out, unless it's somebody's sheep or something.
yeah.
So,
Well, we'll like I said, we're gonna do some Conflict next week. We'll do AD&D the following week again, and we'll just kind of back and forth unless there's a demand for one over the other. But I'm itching to play some Conflict. Conflict is gonna be very cool. Um,
yep.
I got a full plate all weekend, but Kyle, thank you as always for for hanging out, for being the co-host this week. Thank you everyone who hung out and just listened to Radio Bill instead of getting the full video bug. I've got to figure out how to fix that. So unless you got anything else, Kyle, I think we can call it a night. You hear me, Kyle? Okay. Oh no, I was just saying, unless you got anything else, I reckon we'll call it a night. Yeah. All right. All right. Thank you everyone for hanging out, and I will see you all tomorrow. No, I won't see you all tomorrow. That's what I'm going to say. I won't see you tomorrow.